It's time for another studio display video where I say I'm switching from it or ditching it and you lot get angry and we all end up friends because it's just a monitor. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet but you've been watching for quite a while, give that button a click. It's very easy to forget to do that. If you're new, hopefully by the end of this video, like I say, we'll be friends and you'll fancy clicking it as well. The studio display is a typical Apple product. And what I mean by that, just like the AirPods Max, is that it's been around for quite a while now. However, if you buy it brand new from Apple, it's still the same price. So it's still very expensive. However, it's a lovely monitor. And if you put it next to a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio or a MacBook Air, for instance, it looks lovely. That's how Apple gets you. However, you're watching this video because you're looking at the alternatives. And one of those alternatives comes from LG. It's the LG GX9s. They offered to send it to me a couple of weeks ago. It's gone back now, which is why it's not here. But I did run it instead of this and came to the conclusion it's not for me. I'll explain why that's the case in a moment, but I do see why some people would want that massive ultra-wide working style. It makes a lot of sense. So I've got lots of thoughts on this. Also, if you're wondering what that box is behind me, it's hiding another monitor, which I think at the time of filming and at the time of this video going live will be embargoed, so I can't show you it, but I'm very close to switching to that one from this. So again, if you don't want to miss that video when it eventually comes onto YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. Also, giveaway time. We've got 2 or 3 days left for this. It's a massive back to school giveaway that we're doing in conjunction with Back Market. There's going to be 8 winners in total, and the prizes include a 15-inch M2 MacBook Air, an M2 iPad Air, AirPods Max, and some Back Market vouchers. All of the details are down below in the description. Go and get involved in that, and let's get into this and that LG monitor, which has gone back to LG. I'm not going to talk about specs in this video because I find them deeply boring when it comes to monitor reviews and comparisons. However, I appreciate you do need to know the key differences, so we'll put them on the screen now, and we'll also put the pricing on the screen now as well, so you can see just how much more expensive the Apple Studio Display is. That said, the GX9s isn't a cheap monitor. It's still quite expensive. The one thing I do want to talk about is, very briefly, is the design, because it's very different between both monitors. The Studio Display is a very premium piece of kit. As soon as you get this out of the box, you'll think, okay, I've spent a lot of money, but it feels like I've spent a lot of money. Apple are very good at doing this. As soon as you unbox something from them, any kind of doubt that you had that you spent a bit too much money does tend to go. And the Studio Display is one of the best examples of that. By comparison, the GX9s is more plasticky, which is understandable. That's the kind of monitor it is. That said, it's a very good looking monitor in its own regard. So it's much more gamer-like. It's got the RGB lights and it looks very, very different, obviously, to the Studio Display, but it will work for a certain audience. It's a purposeful thing. If you've got that on your desk, you know what you're doing. The other big difference is the stand. Apple only gives us this, which does that, and if you want to go like that, you have to spend more. LG gives you that capability straight out of the box, so that monitor will tilt, it'll go up and down, you can get it just as you want it. So immediately, that's a big win for LG. The other big difference is that the Studio Display has a built-in webcam and the LG doesn't. However, the Studio Display webcam is awful, so it doesn't matter. But let's get into why the ultra-wide might work for you and why ultimately it doesn't work for me. Oh, there is one other difference which is really important to mention, and that is the fact that the Studio Display doesn't have a detachable power cable. You can detach it, but you're not supposed to. I've never done it. I've seen other people yank it out, and I nearly did that when I first got it because I thought, surely this thing comes out, but it doesn't. Well, it's not supposed to. The LG... Stop! The LG does. Let me just move this out of the way. So the stuff that I like about the ultra-wide lifestyle, and I have done it before to quite an extent. So I've got an MSI monitor over there somewhere, which long-term viewers of the channel may recognize from... In fact, let me go and get it. So this is the MSI monitor, which is really good, actually. I think, well, you can't get this one, but you can get the more updated version of it. This is the ultra-wide monitor that I used for a good year and a bit, I think, and it featured on the channel way back when rather. What I love about these is just that massive amount of screen estate, which obviously you get on the GX9s as well to a much bigger degree than this one. For photo editing, amazing. It just means you can see all of your photos very clearly without having to kind of, scroll too much. Video editing, amazing because you can get the entire timeline for a very long video on one single screen. Again, without having to scroll loads or have a second screen to have your library files and all your footage and stuff. It's just incredibly convenient. The other thing is multitasking. You can fit on the LG 9X, I keep getting the name wrong, on the LG GX9s, you can fit 4 apps easily side by side. Now for me, I don't need that much multitasking, but you might have your stocks on one side and your coding window on the other and whatever X or something on the bottom left-hand side. Whatever you do with your monitor that needs lots and lots of screen estate, you cannot beat these massive ultra-wide monitors. The other example from my perspective is music production. As much as you can get music production done on the studio display, it's nothing like one of these and the GX9s because once again you can see so much. The mixer goes on for miles and miles. It's just very, very productive. The other thing to mention is that let's get rid of this for a minute. The other thing to mention is that I get lots of comments on these studio display comparisons that say things like, yeah, but that other monitor has scaling issues, or the image is fuzzy and all that sort of stuff. The GX9s isn't a 5K monitor, so this is much, much sharper. But the whole scaling thing, I don't really understand, and this might just be my lack of understanding about monitors, and to be honest, the lack of interest I have in understanding them fully. But I didn't have any issue with the GX9s. I plugged it in via HDMI, I think from memory, and it just picked up the right resolution, the right refresh rate. It worked, it looked as sharp as it can do based on the screen technology built into it, and there was no funny stuff going on. It looked fantastic. And it's a TV. This is definitely worth mentioning. If you are looking for a monitor for your home studio, your home office, or your office at work, and you love the idea of using it as a TV as well. So when you've finished your work for the day, you want to put your feet up and watch something on Netflix or whatever, then you can do that with the GX9. I know you can do that with a studio display because you can just fire up Netflix in a web browser, but the GX9s is a TV. It has a remote which turns it into a TV at the press of a button. You get the full LG TV operating system, and I think that's pretty interesting. And it's also one of those things which you can't do with a very expensive monitor like this, which means on the LG you're getting almost double for your money, kind of. However, I did run that LG for 2 weeks and there's a few things I just can't look past. The first thing I spotted with the GX9s is that it wobbles a bit compared to the studio display. And again, this is down to the build quality and the fact that this is just metal and doesn't move at all, whereas the GX9s is plastic. It's not flimsy by any stretch of the imagination, but it just moves a bit, and I guess that's because it's just so wide and the base can only be so big. It might be partly down to my standing desk, I don't know, but it did wobble a bit more than this, which I think after a while would have got on my nerves. The other thing is that it was just too big, too wide, too curved. That's just me, and it does highlight that this monitor is definitely more of a gaming monitor. I can guarantee if you're a gamer, having that wraparound display for when you're playing Call of Duty and all that sort of stuff must be, in fact, I know it's awesome because I have tried it. Not here, but I've tried it in demo rooms and stuff and at other people's studios. And that's just a personal thing, but I just found it a bit too whoa. It's also sharp in terms of the image, but it's not retina sharp, as I mentioned. So if you've got used to a 5K retina display or just a MacBook display or even your iPad or your iPhone, going to a monitor that doesn't have that retina quality might be a little bit jarring, possibly. Again, it comes down to price. You're not going to get a 5K monitor at the price of this LG, and it is sharp. It's just not as sharp as this. And because I'm going from this to that, it's not the fairest comparison, but it's definitely worth mentioning because I know you'll mention it in the comments. The speakers, oh, it's so annoying. I don't understand why it's only really Apple that can do this, but Apple is so good at making small speakers sound big. One of the best things about the studio display is the speaker system that's built into it. They are absolutely fantastic, and there's a reason that people keep waxing lyrical about them. I use them all the time. The bass, the width, just the clarity, everything about the speakers in the studio display cannot be beaten by anything else that I've tried, including the GX9s, which is just a bit thin and less impressive by comparison. But I know if you buy that monitor, you'll probably have speakers, or more likely you'll have a proper gaming headset. The webcam, you don't have a webcam on. In fact, is this a downside of the GX9s? Not really, is it? But it does mean that you have to have another piece of kit attached to your monitor. And yes, I do that anyway with the studio display because the webcam's so terrible, but sometimes it's nice just to have nothing there, and you can't do that on the GX9s. Okay, time for a very fast conclusion. Who is this for and who is the GX9s for? They're very different monitors. If you are an Apple person and you've got the budget for this, just get it. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. Yes, it's expensive, and yes, it's been around for a while now. There's no rumors that suggest we're getting a new one anytime soon. Don't ever make your buying decisions with Apple based on rumors, because we have no idea what they're doing next. This might be the last ever monitor they make, who knows? But trust me, you will not be disappointed. If, however, you don't want that and you've got the budget for the GX9s and you want a monitor that is just as at home doing incredible productivity stuff as it is being a fantastic gaming monitor and an occasional TV, it's a brilliant buy. Now it's over to you guys. Get involved in the comments, and remember, if you don't want to miss what's behind that box over there, and trust me, you do not want to miss it, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, get involved in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.